In this video tutorial, I'm going to explain the exact methods and tools I use to sculpt hair. After watching this video, you should be able to accomplish and add what is possibly the most important final touch to your puppet sculptures. Now the tools that I use for sculpting hair, they all vary, and I like to use custom tools because they really don't make tools specifically for sculpting hair. The thing to keep in mind is that when you're sculpting hair, you want the tools to have a smooth surface, and you want to make sure that there's no sharp edges. And for example, the first tool is a custom made tool made from brass, and I took a brass rod and I filed the end of it so that it's a canoe shape, and from the side you can see that it's almost like a snow ski in that it has a slight curve. And the way that I hold this tool is to just go across the surface like this to create a simple texture, very much like hair, as you can see here. So this kind of tool, it's really simple to make. You just take some brass rod and you file it to have a sort of sharpened end, and then take a hammer and just curve it. So that's the first tool. The second tool I use is what used to be a dental pick, and this used to have a longer tip on it, and I broke that off with the hammer and a bench vise, and then I used a propane torch to bend this. Also, as you can see, it's much like a snow ski where you can drag it along. The tip is rounded and completely smooth. I used varying grades of sandpaper, and again you just drag it along the surface and you get that sort of a hair texture that you can see here, which is a little bit wider than the finer tool. And then finally, this is a 007 wax spatula. I brought this from Berman Industries several years ago, and the end is the spoon shape. And what I also do with this tool is the same as the others, where I just drag it along the surface, and you can see that the texture is much wider than both the other tools. So I have basically three varying tools, ones which are fine, medium, and coarse in the texture. And so in combination, you can really create any sort of texture in the hair that you want. The other tool that you can use in case you don't have the ability to make a custom metal tool is to use round toothpicks. And round toothpicks can be found in pretty much any grocery store, any place that sells party goods or anything like that. And you can see that the shape tapers, and the resulting texture that you get is very similar to the tools that I use. And you simply hold it like this and drag it across the surface for a hair texture. Okay, so here we are again looking at our sculpture that we want to add hair to. And what I've done is I've sculpted this person fairly accurately without hair. And the reason for this is because once we add a layer of clay over the head, we want the clay to lay on the head accurately so that when you look at it, it looks natural. So we don't have like a Frankenstein flat head, or like the head doesn't come to a taper or anything like that. It's nice and smooth and round so that the layer above will match the contours. Now in the case of this sculpture, I'm trying to follow a real person's hair pattern. This is a person that I know, and I was lucky enough that she let me take some webcam snapshots of her hair so that I can use it for this demonstration. And if you can do that for your characters, that's really the best thing to do, because you want to have a rear, a side, and a front view of the hair, just so you can see how far the hair sticks out from the head at all the angles. And you'll find that when you're sculpting, that will help a real lot in helping you visualize how you're going to lay the hair on top of the head. Alright, so the next question is, how do we start adding clay to our character where the hair will be? And what you want to do is basically the same as what the rest of the sculpture is. you can take some calipers like these and measure out where on the head the hair should lay. And so since I have some good reference material, I can take measurements off the drawing and then put them right directly onto our sculpture. So I'm going to measure on the drawing between where the middle of the eyes and the part in the hair is. What I'll do is just transfer the measurements onto the sculpt. So I know that the hair starts here where the part is, and I know that looking at the drawing that the part comes up above this eyebrow straight up. So it's not really in the middle, but it's a little off center. And now I have this little X where the hair is going to start. So the next thing I'll do is I'll look at the drawing again and I'll try and figure out where this hair is going to curve on the face. So you can see it kind of comes around, comes down to the eyebrow, curves back and around the jaw. And so that gives me a pretty good idea of where exactly I want to draw lines on this clay so that I know where the boundaries of the hair will be. And so I'll take one of my toothpicks, and I know that the clay will start here it goes directly to that part. I don't know if you can really see that, but that line is really not very deep because later on I might want to come in and adjust that line and smooth it out. So you don't want to add anything too deep. And then turn the head. Then starting where the part is, I'm going to come down. The hair is going to go right to the edge of her eye. And it curves back. Okay, so we have some lines, and we know pretty much where the hair is going to go. Just in case, I'm going to add a line right here. Again, where the hair should go. And now I know roughly where the hair is going to be. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start blocking in the hair pretty much where it belongs. And so I'm just taking some black clay and I'm going to make a piece to fit along the bottom part first, because that's the deepest area where the hair is going to be. It's going to be somewhere in here like this. And so I'll turn it like this to the side and just kind of get an idea of how it's going to lay. And it needs to be straight across, pretty much in line with her jaw. I'm sticking that piece on. Now I'll start taking clay, building it up. I'm just taking little pieces, flattening them out, and sticking them on. And you'll notice that I'm not touching the face or the body or anything else, because my fingers will have black clay on them and I don't want the colors to mix. So I'm being really careful not to get black clay anywhere else as I build this up. Okay, now at this stage I've added clay to just half of the head on this character, as you can see. And all I did is just took little balls of clay, flattened them out, and stuck them where they belonged in the right areas based on those lines that I added before, the guidelines. And one thing that people do a lot of times is they just take a flat piece of clay and stick it on the head, thinking that that's enough. But you really want to make sure that the clay has some volume and isn't just stuck down and pressed on the head. And you want to make sure it kind of sticks up a little bit, because hair really has a lot of shape to it. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, and I'm going to make sure that it looks pretty close to what you see on this side already. Okay, at this stage, I've added the clay to the top of the head based on the drawings, or actually the photographs, like this, and the other reference ones I've had. And I essentially just took little balls of clay, flattened them out, stuck them on. Then, once I got the basic shape over the head, what I did was I made thin snakes of clay and pushed them down on top in the direction that the hair is brushed. So you have a sort of rough version of what the hair will finally look like, stuck down on top of the character's head. And you can see at all angles here how it sort of lays on there. So I'll take my wax spatula and I'll start to just smooth this clay out. And I'll blend all these little pieces together with my sculpting tool. And I'll smooth all this out, but I'll make sure that I don't smooth out too much of those little snakes that I've added. So I'll just kind of go along with the clay in the direction that I put it, so I don't really get rid of those completely. Alright, so now what I've done is I've smoothed out all those basic shapes that I added. The little snakes of clay, I just blended in with my tool, similar to this. I've done that for the entire head of hair. So you can see that there's some lines. And what I've done there is I've just taken the tool that I used before, which is the end of the wax spatula, and has a sort of boat shape at the end. And I've just gone in here and just made these deep areas, just like this. Now for dark colored hair, like black, you want to accent all these areas more so than with light colored hair, because when you're filming a character and they have darker hair, it's a lot harder for the camera to pick out recessed areas. So you want to make sure there's a lot of depth in the hair texture itself, just so the camera can pick that up. So what I plan to do with this at this stage is to smooth this out even further using the same techniques that I showed you on the how to smooth clay video. Okay, things are nice and smooth now, and so the final step in making your character's hair look realistic is to add a more finer hair texture. Now things look pretty good already, and so when you sculpt her you might think, well, that looks nice already, so I don't need to add any more detail or whatever. But if you want to go even further, or if you have a more detailed or more realistic character, that's when you use your custom tools. So here we have our boat shape tool, and you want to go in the direction that the character's hair is brushed or flowing. So you just kind of start like this, and just repeat that over and over until the entire thing is completely covered in that texture. Now it depends really on your artistic style and what your eye likes and what you see and everything. You might want to sculpt this in such a way that the lines are really close together, or you might prefer that the lines are a little bit further apart. It just depends on what you like. So that's the canoe shape tool. The other tool is the more rounded tool that we can use to do the same thing, like this, which is a more wider texture than the canoe shape. And of course, the toothpick also works well. We can just take that and do the same exact thing. Actually, I'm thinking the toothpick almost works better than the other tools. So there's the basic method of sculpting hair. As you can see, here's the texture. And you just keep doing it over the entire surface, going with the flow of the hair. Until you're done. Okay, so here's our finished sculpture. I simply scribed lines all along the hair, right next to each other to create that pattern. Very simple. So if you have any questions and you want to ask me some more questions about sculpting hair, just send me an email. And I appreciate you buying our videos. And thanks, Maria, for letting me use your pictures as reference for the sculpture. And that should do it. Good luck with your sculptures.